I think we've got this. Do we have it? Is it going? Hey there, friends. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it might be in your part of the world. Welcome back to the live stream. My name is Jeff Fritz, and today is February 27th, 2023. We're gonna talk a little bit about .NET MAUI today. This is C Sharp with CSharpFritz, and we are my green screen's acting up there. We're gonna talk a little bit about what it's like to work with MVVM, Model View View Model architecture. And we're going to build a little bit of navigation capabilities into our .NET MAUI application. Now, if you're watching a recording of this, if you're coming back, if you're looking for some recent relevant research reference material, that's not what this is. This is a show. This is a discussion where we're going to take all kinds of questions from the chat room. We're going to talk about different things that are going on in tech, and then we're going to get in the second half and do those lessons and talk about what it means to apply these patterns, to add features to the ongoing project we've been building here on this show. Now, if you need details, all the links are going to be just down below on the YouTube video. If you need them, they're right there. You can go out to github.com/csharpfritz/C# with CSharpFritz. You'll find that repository out there under my account, and all the information is out there for you. Let me say hello to the folks that are coming in the chat room. We'll get them in. Hello, and we'll start our AMA. 40 minutes of AMA. You see the timer right there. Let me head down the list here. My goodness. Raphael, good morning to you. Tendarg, hello on Twitch. Lord Jaximus on YouTube. Good afternoon to you. Bit Plus in Algeria is here. How's it going there? Finch, good evening? Good night? Is it that late where you are? Hope you're having a fantastic evening, I guess. Hey, Gerald, good to see you. Make sure you check out Gerald's got a fantastic YouTube channel with all kinds of little tips that are going to get you to fill in some of the blanks and get you some of those how-to answers. If you're looking for a good how-to channel, make sure you check out Gerald vs. Lewis. Check out his channel here on YouTube. Great content there. And of course, we are on Twitch live today as well. Abdul, good evening to you. Jesse, good afternoon to you in Deutschland. How's it going there? Guten Nachmittag to you. Jay's playlist. I hope Jay's here, not just his playlist. How you doing, Jay's playlist? Radislaw, how you doing in Ireland? Finch, actually, I do want to know MVU more. We're not going to get into MVU. We're focusing on MVVM. The sessions for these streams that I do are very focused. I've got content material already written and samples built so that we can go through them. Could I make a video about MVU? We can come back and talk about that as a separate video. Absolutely. I will take that as an action item to do. Orthodox Forever is here from Serbia. Jay's playlist is actually here from Nigeria. How you doing? Cicero, hello again. Excuse me. Helder is here from Portugal. You're very welcome for the shout out. Lawson, are you late? No, you're not late. You're good. How you doing there, Roberto in Portugal? Finch lives in UTC +8. Carry the one. You live over there. Okay. How you doing there? Is it Jean-Michael in Brazil? Hello. Chris Jones, good afternoon to you on Twitch. Lewis Hendricks, you're ready to port all your Silverlight MVVM apps to MAUI MVVM. Good. That's good. Yes, we need to get there. We need to get off of Silverlight. That technology was deprecated some time ago. Yes, we need to get off of that. Hello, Cold Hands in India. Never got the chance to work with MVVM. How is MVVM different from MVC? It's not that different. MVC is more of a disconnected framework. Things are disconnected. Things are pass information in, and then they don't really do too much after things have been passed off to the controller. There's a little bit of disconnection, and methods are called between them. You'll see with MVVM, we do things like on property changed notification events to send information between the various layers. It's very similar, very much drives a command pattern between them, but they're very similar. There aren't too many differences between them. Amaral is here from Mars. Mars, wow. Kasaba from Hungary. Hello, hello. Harold, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Sending a big hug from Colombia. Thank you, appreciate that. Is that Fedja from Bosnia? Pro Security, hello to you. Zakaria from Morocco, how you doing there? The Neo says, hello, humans. Hello. It's good. I'm stuck in the machine here. I don't know about you. So we'll have a good time here today. Let me see if I can fix my chroma key's just a little bit too aggressive on me there, and it doesn't need to be for this stream. There we go. You're going to see a little bit more of the reflection there. Hello, Manuel, I guess, or Manuel in Austria. How's it going there? We have 35 minutes of AMA time. This is your opportunity to ask questions about .NET, C#, Azure, Visual Studio, and I'm happy to answer for the next 30 minutes. When we get past that, we'll get into our actual lesson, the content that we're going to get into for today, talking about, like I mentioned, .NET MAUI, MVVM. We're going to talk about the Community Toolkit. Gerald knows a thing or two about that. He's got a couple of great videos about it. We'll talk about the Community Toolkit for a little bit, and we'll go into the navigation bits. These lessons today are based on the .NET MAUI workshop that the Microsoft team makes available under the .NET Presentations organization on GitHub. I have another workshop that I'm going to be presenting next Friday on my Twitch channel, where we're going to go through and soup to nuts, beginning to end. We're going to build an RSS reader live on stream. Folks will be able to ask questions. There's all kinds of things that we're going to do around that. We're going to include and bring in capabilities from Blazor. We're going to be using things where we reach out across the internet to interact with data. We're going to be saving data locally in a SQLite database. It's going to go a little bit more in depth than these lessons from the .NET MAUI workshop. So you can find out more about that on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/csharpfritz. And we'll be doing that, like I said, next Friday. That is when that is going to be happening. Hello to you. Is it Issa in Vienna? Let's make sure I catch up with folks here. Zakira used MVVM in one of their projects. Fantastic. Oliver is here from the Dominican Republic. How you doing there, Oliver? Can we chat GPT the questions to ask me? Sure. Why not? While you're at it, you can use the Bing chat feature as well. Use the new Bing. There's all kinds of cool stuff happening at Bing. Really impressive to see that as it grows and advances there. How you doing there, Vishal in India? Before I get to Clipped-in Code's question, let me get some music playing in the background here. Of course, I always play music in the background while we're writing code together. I'm going to go to the Stream Beats Lo-Fi playlist. This is Stream Beats, and this is music that is DMCA free. It's royalty free. Listen to it wherever you'd like. There's all kinds of genres available. I'm listening to a lo-fi groovy instrumental playlist here today. It's just going to be there in the background, fill in some of the gaps when we go quiet and we're working on something or whatever. Check it out, streambeats.com. Big thanks to Harris Heller and his creators for making this music that we're going to listen to today. So Clipped-in Code, Cliption Code, I'm sorry. Is it possible to create a widget via .NET MAUI? Are you talking about the on-screen widgets? I don't think you can yet. I don't think that's possible. I would need to dig into that. If Gerald's still here, he might be able to help answer that. Fedja asks, can you explain the difference between MVVMs from scratch and using Community Toolkit? What is an improvement? So MVVM from scratch means that you're going to end up writing a bunch of pipeline code between your objects, between your view model, and your view, to send information back and forth. With the Community Toolkit, we can generate code that automatically wires up those notifications between those three classes, between those three objects, so that you don't have to manually go and raise an event and send message over here, handle it, and go do something. And that's actually the first bit of today's lesson, is exactly how the MVVM features of the Community Toolkit help us. We're going to write a little bit of that by hand, and then we're going to let the Community Toolkit generate it for us, and we'll take a look at that code that it generates and how easily we can work with that. Am I going to use any of the layered architecture? No. Staying very simple with this. Nerd Herder on Twitch asks, is the Bing thing publicly available now? Bing Chat is slowly rolling out. They're gradually giving access to more folks in the public who have signed up, so you can definitely check that out and get started. Let me get my Razer glasses here cleaned up a little bit. Hello to you, Digital Lab for Africa, coming to us from Senegal. Lawson has a question for us over on YouTube. For those learning from scratch later in life, that's okay. The docs seem to be written only for those who already know everything about the subject matter. And I appreciate that feedback. You're right. There are times where there are assumptions that are made about some of the documentation. Can I recommend a more basic resource is the question. Learn Microsoft Com. Take a look at the educational materials that are posted there, the tutorials. They are targeting folks that are a little earlier in your career, getting started. There we go. It feels so much better getting the gunners on. Check out some of the classes that are over there. I mentioned Gerald. He has some tutorial videos here here if you're watching on YouTube, but on YouTube you can check those out. And we're always trying to create and address more, not just more basic content. That's the wrong term, but content for folks that are coming from somewhere else to .NET. We want to make sure that it's relevant, that it's content that folks can relate to. So, Lawson, yeah, a good place to go is .net/learn. I'll put that into the chat, because there's jump-off points there for folks to be able to, there you can see my message, jump-off points there for folks to be able to choose what type of application they're building and find relevant materials about that. So, Jay's playlist is currently learning C#. What's the best way to learn fast? What resources other than the .NET documentation can I use? So there are, at that same .NET Learn, there are hundreds of videos that we've produced that are targeted for folks that are learning the basics. Jay, you're watching on YouTube. If you check my playlist on this channel, on the .NET channel, so click the playlist button up at the top, go into Learn C# with CSharpFritz. I cover the basics from the beginning in that playlist, and all kinds of frameworks in this same model of rich conversation and interactive samples. In particular, my C# samples that I show go through and show off using the C# interactive notebooks. So there's code that's written in interactive documentation that you can tinker with. Feel free to change, feel free to break, try new things, and it should get you moved along a little bit faster than just reading the documentation. How you doing there, Walter? How do I look at a project and detect that it is using MVVM versus MVC? What are the benefits of MVVM? So that's a little bit of what we just heard in that previous question. It's MVC directly calls components in the controller, in the model, where MVVM, I look at seeing events getting raised and command objects that are triggering on the view model that do things. The view model and the controller are pretty much the same thing, though. When you really get down to brass tacks, they do almost the same thing. So, hello to you, Diego in Brazil. Can we connect Maui with Azure IoT Hub or Azure Digital Twins S Amaral? I believe you can, yes. I don't have any personal experience doing that, but you can. I believe you can absolutely do that. Harold asks, where could I start learning Maui? I know WPF and .NET Core. Does it help me to understand Maui fast? It does help you. Knowing XAML, and the XAML dialect for Maui is different than WPF, but you're going to find it's very similar. So knowing that, you're going to be able to ramp up quickly. The biggest challenges that I have as a web developer coming into .NET MAUI is I look at XAML and I expect to see spans and divs. And that's not the case. XAML's a different language. It's a different capability. It is angle brackets, but it's not. Where could you start learning Maui? How you doing? My name's Jeff. I'm teaching about .NET MAUI today. And I'll be teaching about it again next Friday, a full-day workshop over on my Twitch stream. There's all kinds of videos here on YouTube in the .NET channel. So all kinds of great material there for you. And I mentioned .net/learn, and you can focus on Maui there, and it'll jump you right in. 3 objects, like one object is a model, one a view, and one a view model. That's right, Fedya. Yep. Does the MVVM toolkit, Lewis Hendricks asked, does the MVVM toolkit use observable collection and iNotify property changed? It does. Yes. We're going to see that in today's lesson. Do I recommend any book to learn .NET MAUI? I try to avoid recommending books, mostly because the time it takes to write a book, by the time the author is done writing the book, the next version of whatever is out. And if they have gotten the book done early in the cycle, they either started it as a preview and have been updating it since, but you're going to end up on this treadmill of you got the book, and frankly, it's going to go... It's going to go obsolete in less than 9 months. So it's hard for me to recommend books that are about a specific framework or technology. There are some that are about frameworks that have been around for a very long time that, yeah, you can get in and you can be successful with. There's at this point, Blazor books, go for it. Blazor is on version 7 now, going into version 8. You're going to be just fine with some of the basics that are in there. .NET MAUI, building on Xamarin, is a little bit different, growing. I see Gerald recommends a book by Sean Lawrence, another one by Matt Goldman. Be aware that they're probably going to go obsolete in a year or two. I wrote a book about .NET Core when it was .NET Core 1.1. That went obsolete in less than 9 months after I published it. So, hey there, NIT. Yeah, I want to be family friendly with how we say some of these names. So you created a web app with Blazor WASM, says Cold Hands. I want to create a mobile, iOS, Android app of it using Maui. Can I import the already written Blazor web app? How would I approach it? Yes, you can. So Blazor Hybrid is a fantastic strategy to build applications, native applications with .NET MAUI. Start up a .NET MAUI application, a .NET MAUI Blazor Hybrid application. Use the default template that's out there. And you should be able to lift all of your pages, all of your components, and copy them directly in and get most of that working. You're going to have to wire up your program CS so that it has all of your dependencies in there. But your interactions where you would be relying on calling out to a service using HTTP client, that should still work. You're going to need to correct a couple things. You're going to have some other interactions that you're going to want to take a look at. Just because how you interact with the server is a little bit different when you're a native application. So you're going to need to tinker with mostly those types of interactions. But copying everything in and dropping it into the pages folder and root folder on Blazor MAUI application, It's going to get you about 80 to 90% there. So you will have to do some tweaking. Mario asks, is there any way to let a MAUI app run in a browser? No. MAUI is one way. MAUI is a native application. It is not a web application. So the closest way that I would recommend you try to do something like that would be, like I was just explaining for Cold Hands, build a Blazor application or some other web application, lift it and put it into a Blazor hybrid application. Amaral asks, should we learn desktop apps first before web apps or for more clarity and understanding? No. Whichever way you want to go in your learning journey, which is important to you that you want to accomplish first, go in that direction. Nothing says you have to learn one before the other, and if somebody does tell you that, they're gatekeeping. You can learn any type of framework, any type of technology model at any time you want. If you want to learn game development first, you can do that. Absolutely, you can do that. And I know folks who have been very successful with that. But don't expect to be able to lift and transfer all of your knowledge into web development. It's a different animal. It's a different framework. So that's what makes .NET development so compelling. As a C# developer, as somebody who knows how to program with C#, and I know how to build web-based services and server operations and concentrate on building applications for scale. When it comes to then needing to change my thought pattern and build for something smaller, a mobile application, well, all of my C# knowledge still transfers. But there's other things I have to be concerned about now. I need to think about XAML. I need to think about how my application is going to run on a much smaller footprint instead of on a massive server with tons of gigabytes and terabytes of drive storage. It's different. So think about the differences between the two. Lawson has a question on MAUI Blazor. How to know when to use XAML versus Razor? Well, XAML is in .NET MAUI. Razor is in Blazor, and you use Razor to output HTML. It needs to be rendered by a web browser. So in .NET MAUI, you're going to use XAML, and you can expose a web view component that can present that Razor and Blazor content. How you doing there, Simon? Yes, there's a lot of MAUI training on his channel as well. Yes, James is a colleague, and he presents and helps out with all kinds of stuff on this channel and over on his channel as well. How do I handle both code behind and view model in the XAML? It is sometimes confusing. You'll see that in just a few minutes when we get into the code. Thank you, Tyler. Swagata asks, can I please teach Entity Framework? Already did that. That was on another video. Check out the playlist on you're on YouTube, on the .NET channel right here. Click into the .NET channel below. Look for the playlist up top. C# with CSharpFritz, and you'll see the Entity Framework lessons. I believe I have 2 or 3 videos in the playlist about it. Let me see here. Yeah, you should focus on just a view model, and like I said, I'm deferring that question because that's what I'm teaching today. Like, spoiler alert. Can I help with the payment gateway integration in MAUI? No, I cannot, Abdul. Sorry. That's not something that I'm focused on, and is a bit off topic for me today. Lewis Hendricks says, am I the only one? Wait, I only the code behind if it's specific to modifying the UI and doesn't talk to the view model. Okay, I get it. Can I show the purpose of model in MVVM in MAUI? Says, is that seek glitches? Yeah, we're going to be doing exactly that. So the model is typically responsible for retrieving and storing data. I like to use a repository pattern with that. So when I build things, I even doing MVC, I refer to it as MVCR because I use a repository that the controller calls to actually go get the data, and the controller does a little bit of business logic when I do MVC. Same thing with MVVM. My model is going to end up using some sort of repository pattern to go fetch and work with data, so that when I need to work with data, whether well, in most cases here, it's going to be through an HTTP client, especially when we think about Android and iOS apps. But when we're building Windows native apps or Mac apps, you could reach directly into a database on premises. That's possible. You can do that. But you're going to reach through some repository pattern that knows how to interact with the database. Then all of your business logic for working with the UI is isolated. You have a nice separation of concerns. So, yes, Uno makes a pattern. They make a framework where you can build an application and it does work on the web with WebAssembly and also natively. You can absolutely do that. You need that echo. I've got a bunch of other voice mod tricks available as well. Did you know that the system notaries use is Blazor? Oh, I did not know that. That's very cool. Tamago asks, should I learn Razor pages before Blazor pages? Razor markup is what I would say. Not necessarily Razor pages or Blazor. Learn the Razor markup. Once you know Razor markup, how it works for pages, how it works for Blazor is a slight difference that you can pick up and adjust to. So learn the Razor markup, which is not that complicated, really. Most folks can learn it in a half an hour because it starts with just adding an @ sign in front of wherever you want C# code to go inside your HTML. That's it. There's a couple directives at the top of the file that you use, and there's a code block or a functions block at the bottom, typically at the bottom of the file, that folks use to write methods that can be called from elsewhere in the Razor template. That's it. Congratulations. Thank you for attending my TED Talk. Okay. Mario wants to convert an existing WPF app to have one code base for a web app running on Windows native. Okay, for a web app also running on Windows native and Android native too. What framework to choose? Uno, Electron, anything else? So Uno sounds like a good match for that because you're already in XAML. If you went to Blazor, you'd end up having to rewrite things as web content. But if you're comfortable with going in, Uno is an open source application. There is a commercial company that supports that you can pay for support and other capabilities, other features. I'm not 100% familiar with their offerings. I would, in this case, I would check out Uno for that. How you doing there, Robson in Brazil? Pankaj is here from India. Hello, hello. So, BitPlus is learning the repository pattern. It's a very good architecture. It is BitPlus. If folks have been watching me over on my Twitch channel, I've been using the repository pattern extensively for an application that I've been building so that I can migrate databases as my application grows. Started off initially with just writing JSON files to disk, and I had a repository pattern in front of that to write and manage those JSON files. I upgraded and went to a MySQL database. Okay, so I replaced those same repository implementations. It was the same interface through the rest of my code, but those implementations were replaced with, now we're writing to tables. I upgraded from there and went to RavenDB, so I swapped out my repository pattern again. And now I'm upgrading and going to SQL Server and Elasticsearch. So I'm swapping that out again. And they're just new implementations of the exact same methods, the exact same contracts. Really good pattern that isolates that data logic so that you can grow and migrate and change things. The re-implementation of repositories, though, may take a little bit of time, to be sure. Thanks for helping out, Gerald. Appreciate you answering some of the questions there in chat to help out. Is it Rudith? Is there any way to call or include WPF libraries or DLLs? I want to use Power from desktop to Maui for desktop. You try to search it, but you don't find. I would... What things from WPF are you trying to do in .NET MAUI? Most of them should be over there, but for Windows native things, you should be able to interact with anything that you need. Let me know. We can dig into that a little bit. Parker on YouTube says, new here, but love the channel. Is this an official Microsoft channel for .NET? Yes, it is. It should say that on the front page. On the front page of the channel. Doesn't it? Doesn't it say that over there? I need a new browser. I thought does it say it on the front page? It shows that this video is playing on the About. Yeah, on the About tab on the .NET channel, it does say this is the official YouTube channel for the .NET team at Microsoft. Okay, good. I did get that right. Look at that. Let's see. Let me get the GitHub repository open. There we go. Let me catch up here. Ghanem asks, have I learned Blazor before .NET MAUI? No, you do not need to learn Blazor before .NET MAUI. You'll be just fine. You'll be just fine working with .NET MAUI first. I know a number of folks that have done .NET MAUI first, and then Blazor, including our friend James Montemagno that folks are mentioning there. Yep. Yes, swapping implementations. That's right, the Neo. Dude on YouTube asks, what's ABP vNext? The ABP I know is the ASP.NET Boilerplate project, and that's a series of templates that you can use for building websites. vNext, I don't know. Cold Hands at excuse me. A little coffee there. Cold Hands asks, can MAUI apps only be written in XAML? So there's at the very least, there's a framework that you're going to have to use that's written in XAML. But then you can hand things off to Blazor and delegate inside a web view. So you have options to escape. There are ways that you can reference native components on Windows, macOS, iOS, and Android to include that content. So you're not limited to XAML. However, you do need to have some XAML in your application. Oh, wow. Lots of good questions coming in here. Let me see if I can get through them all in the last 8 minutes that we have here. 8.5 minutes. Robson says the company work for have a very big on-prem project built in Windows Forms. Is MAUI a good candidate for this type of project that doesn't have access to the internet at all? Sure, but why are you migrating from Windows Forms? Windows Forms is still supported, still updated, still getting new capabilities, even with .NET 7 and .NET 8 coming in the fall. So I would have a question around what's leading you to consider migrating. Isan asked, what's the best MVVM framework to use in your opinion? We're going to be using the MVVM Community Toolkit. That's what we're using today. So asking me what's the best, I can't answer that. How much faster is .NET 7 compared to .NET 6, asks Royal T. Depending on what you do, we've seen in the lab, in controlled scenarios that are optimized for performance testing, we've seen 40 to 50% performance improvements. Dude on YouTube says, MAUI feels incompatible. Why? I need more depth on that. That's like saying, Fritz, I don't like your accent. Why? Like, I don't know. Why? Why don't you? Give me some background. I need a little more context there. Ryudith says, I grew up from VB6 where desktop can be very customized. For now, I want nostalgic from the old days with new technology MAUI. there's a lot you can do with it. What do you want to customize? What are you trying to do that you feel that you can't? Because most things are possible there. Minoj asks, Windows Presentation Foundation versus MAUI for desktop PC application development. Okay, WPF only works on Windows. MAUI works on Windows and Mac OS. So for desktop PC application development, you've got Windows and Mac covered with MAUI. One project. WPF has been around for a very long time. It's got a fantastic base of libraries, tools, and capabilities that are available out there for you on NuGet. Lots of educational materials out there on blogs and different locations online. Different trainers have all kinds of material for WPF. .NET MAUI is new and is coming along and improving. .NET MAUI has access to some of the new Windows 11 and Windows 10 features available in WinUI 3. WPF, you have to jump through a couple of hoops to get to those capabilities where it's built in with .NET MAUI. That's just the top of the iceberg there. Are cloud certificates useful? That's off topic. Sorry, yeah, I'm not going to go into that. Is .NET MAUI better or Flutter? Are both natively compiled? Why would anyone choose MAUI over Flutter? Royalty. I'm not a Flutter expert. Flutter's written in Dart. Flutter is written and delivered by the folks at Google, who, as they have proven time and time again, they will shut down and give you no support on technologies as the wind blows. So if they're not making money from it and they are not charging anything from Flutter, they will and have a record of shutting down and making Google technologies disappear. They're making money from search. They're making money from Android. They're making money from Gmail and their Office suite. Those aren't going away. If they're not charging for something, they've proven they will move things very quickly and easily somewhere else. So why would somebody use .NET MAUI? Because .NET MAUI is built on proven .NET technologies that have been around for 20 plus years with an amazing install base and lots of folks that are able to build and speak C#, Visual Basic, F#, and deliver for those technologies. So, how to add desktop shortcuts to a MAUI app like it is with a WinForm app. That's something you do at install time. You can create shortcuts. You can absolutely do that. Sector on Twitch. Thank you so much, Daryl, for helping with some of the commentary on the questions here. Sector on Twitch says, we're using WinForms for some old projects. No sense to switch frameworks. Exactly. You don't need to. In fact, WinForms is getting better and faster with the upgrades for .NET 6, .NET 7, and soon .NET 8. What do I prefer for a cross-platform framework? Asks BitPlus on YouTube. I'm a web developer, so I prefer Blazor. Be able to build and deliver both as a static web app, and now with the web view and capabilities of .NET MAUI, I can put my application inside a cross-platform .NET MAUI app. So for me, somebody who's been doing web development since the 1990s, I like Blazor. And the new capabilities coming with Blazor in .NET 8, they're gonna light me up. I'm gonna be so happy with them. You tried using the WinUI 3 DLL with some work. Yes, and some difficulties. That's why the .NET team recommends folks use .NET MAUI, because it wraps that and kind of hides some of that from you. Makes it easier to get to and work with. It's time to develop Android applications. Why can't they be deployed to mobile phones? What do you mean, why can't they be? That's an Android question. I can't help you with that. That's going to be a question for your phone providers and folks like that. When I enlarged the application window by 1 pixel, my whole UI shifted a lot. I can't help you with that. I need some context. I'm sorry. Is it Moise on YouTube asks, can we access the client shell or command using the Blazor WebAssembly app? It's not. It's actually not WebAssembly when you embed a Blazor app inside of a MAUI hybrid application. It's a native app. It's not doing the whole WebAssembly re-rendering thing. It's running everything locally on the metal. So yes, you can access the client shell. There is a crossover there. You can access the client shell and interact from the WebAssembly app. Yep. BitPlus uses Ubuntu. Fantastic. Coming up next month over on my Twitch stream, I do theme months every now and again, but starting in March on my Twitch channel, I'm doing Minimal March. Oh, all month long, we're going to be doing .NET development at the command line. No IDEs, no code editors. We're going to be using text editors only. So that's coming up, and I'll be using a bit of Ubuntu that month. Rob K asks, does MAUI cover anything that can be done in WPF? Yes, most things that can be done in WPF you can do from .NET MAUI, and .NET MAUI can also be deployed to iOS, Android, and Mac OS. One application, one project. So a lot of flexibility to do that. 30 seconds left. I'm going to cut it off here. I'll answer the last few questions that are here. Isan says, what makes me doubt switching .NET MAUI from WPF is the lack of ability to hit the Windows API. Yes, you can. Yeah, yes, you can. Can you send push notifications in .NET MAUI? Different operating systems handle it differently. There is an abstraction over that you can use from .NET MAUI, but if you want to do something directly in Windows, you can with Windows specific capabilities. We're not going to get into that today. I think it's coming up. It's either in the next lessons or the ones after that. I need to look at the plans there. Robson's WinForm app is still in Framework 4.8, and the migration to .NET 7 has not been easy for lots of incompatible libraries. You're considering other other UI frameworks. So the libraries you're using for WinForms are not compatible with .NET 7. So instead of migrating and finding replacements for those libraries, you're going to rewrite the whole thing in a different framework. Right? That seems like a lot more work. I would need to see some sort of what's the benefit you're pursuing by considering a different framework than just upgrading your .NET, your WinForms, and replacing those libraries. Cliption code, when I create .NET MAUI project on a Mac, I can run it exactly one time with Visual Studio. After that, I get weird compilation errors for the exact same code. Can't say I have that problem. Douglas, I'm wrapping up the last questions that I have here. Douglas asks, in MAUI, is platform-specific gone? No, it's very much there. It seems to be always like Xamarin Forms from now on. .NET MAUI is the evolution of Xamarin Forms. There are platform-specific capabilities that you can light up. We saw where that was, where those features are located inside of our project. There are platform-specific folders that you can put platform-specific capabilities and code that's compiled natively for those, so you can reach out and reference and do things specific to iOS or Windows or Mac by deploying and integrating it appropriately with your project. Will AOT ever come to web APIs and MVC projects? Check out the .NET 8 roadmap. You'll see there's a little bit coming there. EF, when added to a .NET MAUI project, gives a lot of error, and add migration is not a breeze either. Any plan to address these? Move it out into a class library. Move it out into a class library, reference the class library from .NET MAUI, and you'll have a better experience. I agree with the Neo. And a lot of these questions are vague, and please understand, there's a lot of folks asking questions and interacting here in chat, and it's hard for me to bounce back and forth and know exactly what everybody's talking about, picking up things. Yes, I will be using Vim as well in March. Is Xamarin going to disappear in the future? Well, the consideration is migrate to .NET MAUI, and the support cycle for Xamarin will be going away in the future. Yes. Can HoloLens development be handled by MAUI? I can't answer that. I don't have any experience with HoloLens. You managed to create an Android home screen widget in .NET MAUI by importing some of the Xamarin packages and tweaking. Is there going to be a better way to do this? You know what? I don't have that insight from the team. So you only have 200 characters to write, and that should give you some additional consideration with the types of questions when trying to ask something very complex and with code samples and context is hard to get to the depth of. So, all right, let's head over. We're going to start talking about MVVM and our .NET MAUI project today. So let me make sure I have some of these other things closed and out of the way here for now. Yeah, we're good on that. All right. And let's start with the GitHub repository. It's a good place to start. And I want to make sure I'm on the right branch. I need to get rid of some of these branches in the GitHub repository. So, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. So let me head over to the code. We're going to be here on the local machine. I'm not going to be going over to the other set. It's a little bit easier to work here locally on this one machine. Hi there. It's me, Jeff. I'm down here in the corner. We'll be going back to the stand-up set in the next week or two. We'll be back. So this is the GitHub repository where all the things for our lessons, our instructional material is in here. We are working in the Season 6 folder over here, and I'm particularly in a branch called 0603. I will paste that link if you want to jump through and take a look. And we are on this lesson here, 0603, MVVM and App Navigation. So this is based on the .NET MAUI workshop. You can see that link right here. But we've extended, I've added some more materials, consolidated a little bit to make this consumable in one series of streams here. So they're nice isolated packages that we can go through. So today we're going to be talking about MVVM and app navigation, and here's all of our content we're going to be going through. So there were a number of folks that were asking about this right off the bat. What is MVVM? So there's a number of architecture patterns for building applications that are common out there. Particularly the .NET team has promoted MVC, Model View Controller, with the ASP.NET frameworks, and MVVM is promoted in a lot of the native applications and native frameworks that we make available. MVVM with WinForms, WPF, and Xamarin, and now .NET MAUI. So Model View View Model, it's a pattern that separates UI from business logic. Once again, this separation of concerns. If we can separate things, means we can test them much easier, and we can write very, very direct code that can be swapped out or upgraded or replaced. Put bug fixes in because it's very clear where the responsibilities for the different components of the application live. By setting up this very discrete and very descriptive architecture means you don't have to think about where things belong. Great example of something like this not being implemented. Back in the day, back when we used to write web forms applications, there were folks that I would find who would write an entire set of SQL statements, all of their queries that are going to run against the database in their ASPX files. Now in web forms, you had an ASPX file that contained, here's all the markup that I'm going to present on the web. And you could switch back and forth to C# code and web code that you're going to emit, and the C# code would execute and output some content or a control, a little widget that would do something on screen. And people would write all of their database query code inside the ASPX file where it's rendering and trying to present web page content. MVVM is going to help you force those things apart, so it's very clear you're not reaching into the database from our view, our user interface. Let that happen somewhere else. The user interface is dumb. It's the style. It's the way that your application looks. Your business logic is going to go into the model. That's what the model is going to know how to interact with the database. The model is going to know how to make those interactions and what to do with them. And the view model stitches the two together. It's going to take the data that's coming in from the view, decide what to do with it and how to put it into the view model. It's also going to handle commands, the interactions. You click on a button, you interact with a widget, it does something. The view model will capture that event, decide what to do with that event, and pass that over to the model and say, oh, this thing occurred that you might want to do something about. And the model will figure out and write things to a database, to disk, what have you. So, can we see C# with XAML as Razor syntax? No. And I've been avoiding, I purposely avoid talking about that, Gerald, because that's very experimental, and it's, for these types of lessons, I try to keep things as much on the release train as possible, the current release. So yes, there are things out there called Blazor mobile bindings that are going to allow you to do some interesting things with Razor and Razor templating to interact with mobile applications. They're experimental, they're not supported, but it's something that's been tinkered with that if folks are interested in, go check it out. It might help you. It might get you into an interesting place that solves a problem, but I appreciate that it's an experiment that doesn't have support and is very open source. If you like it, you can contribute to it. You can provide feedback. The rest of the .NET frameworks are open source. You can contribute, you can send comments, questions, and the engineers will respond to you. Those frameworks that are under full support, full release support, like .NET MAUI, you can get all kinds of support from directly in GitHub. So there are different levels of support, different capabilities that you can get, and there are some things that we are experimenting with that we're gonna showcase, we're gonna show off, and try to get your feedback and decide and understand, is this a way that's going to make development easier, better, faster, more productive? Gerald's got a great point there of, check this out. If this is a way that you enjoy developing, this is important that you might be able to provide some feedback on, without question. But we also want to make sure that you know that that's an experiment. If it does work out for you, we want to hear more about why it worked out well for you. So, and I think the .NET team is very unique as a professional organization that's working on building a product, a development product, and being this open and interactive with supporting and showing the experiments before they're released. Because in previous worlds of previous administration, let's say, at Microsoft, everything was closed and you didn't hear about things until it was ready to be released. So there are other organizations that they have open source products, but I don't think they take the feedback and the interaction quite as well as the .NET team does. So, cool. All right, so that's the long and short of what MVVM is, right? That's the short of it, let's say. Got to keep an eye on the phone when a message comes in from Mrs. CSharpFritz. Got to make sure that we're all okay. So I mentioned that there's interactions between the various layers of the framework, the view model, the view. And one of those ways that we pass information between them is through the iNotify property changed interface and event management, I'll describe it as. So the interface lets our view know when changes happen in the model, right? We want to repaint fields. We want to update them with different content based on what's happened in the model on the business side. So you're right, Curious Drive. Don't want to miss the texts from the family. So we're going to implement in our base model, so other view models that we create and interact with have this ability to respond when a property changes in the model so that we can paint and update. And I'm using the term paint, and that's very much a software developer thing, so that we can update the user interface. And when I say paint, I mean change the content that's in there, right? We're gonna brush over the user interface with new content, right? Or maybe respond by changing a color or a notification. We're going to update the user interface by painting it, right? So we use the paint verb to update and make new content appear on screen. So, all right. Just moving a couple things around here so I can see what's going on. Why is that? Okay. That was weird. I've got screens up for Twitch and YouTube, and the YouTube hadn't updated, and if I need to moderate, I need to be able to get over there. So let's open up the project. I'm going to jump back into, sure, let me open Visual Studio and jump back in. So, whole bunch of projects hanging out here. Yeah, we're going to start from where we ended previously in the Monkey Finder application. Yes. Building and working with locating information about monkeys. So we have our app shell, we have our main page, and we have a monkey object in here that we've loaded. I thought we had a model loaded here with content. Right. No, that's not where I left off. Hang on. Where did I leave off here? No, it's not one of those. And I don't want to jump into... Hang on. C# with CSharpFritz. This one... Here, there. Oh. Hang on. Let's do a quick merge. Because I do have all the updates out there. And yeah, go ahead. That one. Just merge the couple changes that I need to here. Stand by. Yep, I want the current change there. Yep, give me that one. No, I want the incoming change. Thank you. And give me the incoming change. Cool. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I knew there was content out there for this. And my main page. Yep, give me the incoming. Fantastic. All right. Push those changes up. And let me get back over here. There we go. That's the content I was looking for. All right. So, we're going to implement a base view model. See, this is what I get for resetting and moving things around and not looking for it up front. We're going to implement a base view model and start loading up the iProperty notify change to work with this. But Curious Drive on Twitch asks, before we get started here, does it make sense to use the MVVM pattern in Blazor, as Blazor takes care of binding data to the page? So you already have the MVVM pattern in Blazor for the most part. So I don't think you need to bring in anything else. You have that capability already there. So, good morning, Benjamin. And yeah, Bit Plus, you're right. Is this stream muted for anyone else? You can hear me, right? I think everybody's been hearing me. Headset was acting strange. There you go. Okay. Fantastic. So let's create a base view model in our view models folder that we're going to start loading up and getting this architecture defined here. So there is a base view model class. It's already out there for us, and we're going to start implementing I notify property changed. And when I do a control period, get Karnak loaded in there so we can see these. So when I do control period there, I'm going to implement the interface, and I get this event that's defined, and I've zoomed in just a bit much. There you go. That says, hey, a property changed, and we can handle that event and do something with that. So that's pretty easy to understand what that's going to do. Right? There's our event, and we can now create a method called onPropertyChanged so that we can have a method that we can call and say, hey, go raise this event appropriately for this property. So I will copy that in. So now we have a method onPropertyChanged, and we're going to specify here the caller member name. Using this hint here is actually going to pass in the property name to the method automatically for us. If you don't provide one, it's going to go figure out what the caller is and pass that in. And it will take a look at the property changed event, and notice the question mark there. If there's anything listening, before we used to have to do a check if this is null, and if there is, then invoke. But by using the question mark, the null coalescing operator there, I can check it, and if there is anything connected, invoke the event. So we're going to raise the event, send a notification, and we're going to point to the current class and say, we're notifying, and we're going to pass along some property changed event arguments with the name of the property that's changed. Yeah. Thank God for the question marks, right? Is it re-rose? Makes this code a lot... It makes it more terse, and once you understand the syntax, makes it a heck of a lot easier to read. We'll get there, Dev Invisible. We'll get there. So, MVVM pattern is separate, or it can be mixed with DI and IOC. It can be mixed with dependency injection and inversion of control. We'll get there. We'll get there. Spoiler alert! Yeah. Oh, we're hitting on some of those topics that are exactly where we're going to land as this evolves. We're starting with the basics here, and then we're going to come back through and add those capabilities. So we can now implement in our base view model things that we need in all the pages, like a title for the screen that we're on, and some indicator of, well, is this page busy doing something? Are we waiting for something to happen? So I'm going to copy these two backing fields. I like to put my backing fields up at the top here. A quick refresher in C#, if we have a field at the class level like this without a scope identifier, by default, it's private. I'll make that explicit for these two, that they are in private scope. So outside of this base view model, you can't access that. They're not available. Okay. Next, we're going to create the properties that wrap that. So we're going to create a public Boolean called isBusy that's going to return that isBusy field. And here's that property notify changed. When we do change that value, we're going to call on property changed. So I like to put properties after events. Fields, events, properties. So isBusy, when you get the isBusy property, just return. We're going to use fat arrow notation here to say just return the isBusy field. Don't need to have anything fancy around that. But when we set, if isBusy is the same as the current value, the value being set, just return, don't do anything. Otherwise, set the value and raise the onProperty change. And I'm not passing anything into this. It's going to grab the caller member name, which is isBusy, and pass that along to this. Yep, conventions. Conventions. They help with a lot. Spain on Twitch asks, so with MVVM, the view model would contain the logic of the model. First off, I'm talking to a whole European country called Spain. Nice. Hello, people of Spain. It's Jeff. Hi. I kid. The view model would contain the logic of the model. The wire-up logic, the business logic, and how you interact with the data would live in the model. So the view model is just a router that's passing information between them. So very much here, right? We're setting up properties that we're going to expose for the view to consume, and we're setting up some events that the view can consume, and we can also track and use to push back into the database. I agree, the Neo. I prefer my fields start with an underscore. So, but that's just me. All right. How you doing there, Barakina? Barakina? I hope I have that pronounced right. All right. So we'll also add a title property to do almost the exact same things here. So we'll just add that. So now I have isBusy and title, and they're raising that on property changed. Oh, good. It is very similar to MVC. We'll get into it, but you'll see more here. So notice that we call the on property change, blah, blah, blah. We're going to create the inverse of isBusy for is not busy. This is very much just to show you some of the features that we're going to generate from the Community Toolkit. You don't really need to do this, but we'll create the is not busy property down here that is going to return. In fact, I'll put it right there. Returns the inverse of is busy, right? So if processing is idle, this will return true. Okay. So can we add data access layer to this? I would add it to the model, not to the view model. So, and we're actually going to get there later on in this lesson. Okay. So we wrote a lot of code here to put some backing in front of and interactions in front of these fields so we can get notifications and get it a little more observable in how we interact with them. I mean, look at this. From line 8 all the way down through line 33, we implemented all these things And we're going to have to write, for every property that we have, we're going to have to write these, what is that, 8 lines of code for every property that we want to be observable, that we want to be able to receive those notifications. That's a pain in the neck. That's a lot of duplication. That's a lot of keystrokes that my fingers don't want to type. So we're going to use the Community Toolkit to generate some of this for us. Let me take a look. There's a couple questions came up. How you doing there, Yitzhak? McNets on Twitch is the only one I need to address here. Do I prefer to add the data logic in the model instead of using a sum service? No, I prefer using a service object to do that, so that I can swap that out later. But that service is really a repository type of object, and we're back into repository model. So yes, and I mentioned earlier, if folks have been watching my personal Twitch streams, I've been doing a lot of repository model work. This weekend we actually swapped out a database search interaction. Just gutted that whole thing and swapped in Elasticsearch. The user interface stayed the same. All of our other code stayed the same. We ended up upgrading a little bit to optimize the queries back and forth, but the interactions with the search engine completely hidden from the front end. It's a nice model. So we're going to introduce the my markdown just didn't. Darn it. Let's fix that markdown real quick. Here in this. What? No, go away. I don't want all that stuff. 0603. Read me. Where is it? I had a link that I dropped in here for. Right there. Oops. That's better. Fix that. There we go. The .NET Community Toolkit seeks to simplify that, and we're going to use the Community Toolkit MVVM library. So it's actually already in the project. So if we open this up and we look in Monkey Finder, or maybe it's not in the project. Oh no, wait. Different versions. There it is. There's the Community Toolkit package. It's included at a higher level and passed down. All right, before I get into explaining what this is, let me take a couple questions here. So I'm actually going to scroll up. Cyril on YouTube says there is a NuGet package called property changed FODI. By adding the package, we don't have to declare the full properties. You're going to see we get the same capabilities here, Cyril. Onema says, can someone explain why you would make a function to return the variable value instead of making the variable public? In this case, we're hiding it because we want to send notification that this property changed. I forgot to add the is not but busy notification in there. Let me go back and do that. So, right, I'm sending notification for that as well. So other things are occurring when we set the value. We're raising additional information. If you didn't need to send that information anywhere else, absolutely make it a standard, right? Public property with a get set, right? Public string foo. There you go. right? Make it a standard get set property like that, and you're done. By making it a property, instead of just exposing a field, you have the opportunity to replace these with an abstraction, right? You have this abstraction such that you can replace what these two are doing when you need to set and interact with other things. When this is updated, or when somebody fetches that and maybe you need to log that somebody interacted with that value. I don't know. Maybe there's an auditing capability you need to be able to provide. By providing that abstraction by default with the get set syntax like this, you can introduce those features later, and the API to interact with foo is the same. That never changes outside of this. So there's an update to 8.1. I'm not going to take updates right now. And this is going to use a code generator to generate some of this code that we're talking about here. So we already have that capability in here. We're going to make this a partial class, and we're going to inherit from observable object instead. So a partial class is a way for us, if you remember from our C# lessons way long ago, it's a way for us to say, there's another file on disk that contains a class called base view model in this namespace. And at build time, take that file and this file and mash them together as one object. In this case, what that means is we're able to generate code in another file that's hidden somewhere else. I don't know where it is, quite frankly. I don't care where it is. It's generated code. The human managed code that I'm writing lives here, and we'll update and swap things out appropriately, so we use the generated code and take advantage of that for us. So we're going to decorate our is busy, our title, and our is not busy fields, right? So I'm just going to delete all of that goo. Paste it in there. So now I have is busy. We're going to generate an observable property, right? It's going to create a property that wraps that automatically triggers the notify property changed. And we're also going to notify that a property changed for this other property over here, the is not busy. Observable property for title, so we can set and change the title, and it will properly raise the property changed event. So MS on YouTube asks, is it possible to expect any session later about profiling? I can take that as a request for us to get into. Yeah, absolutely. Let me take that as an action item. We can definitely work with that. So I have a very simple class now, and it will automatically generate that. So yeah, we should see some of that code if we look in our dependencies. I'm going to open the Windows one up here. Analyzers, see the source gen stuff in here. So Community Toolkit, and here's the source generators, right? I notify property changed observable object, I believe is where we're... No, where are we going to find it? Source generators, observable property generator. That was observable object. There it is. So there's my base view model. I can navigate to it here inside the Solution Explorer, right? And it shows me which files which generator is handling here. And you can see there's my is busy property, and it's raising events to let other components know, hey, this value is changing. It's changing. The property is changing. There is a property changing. Here's the new value set. Okay, it finished being changed. The property changed. We're done changing that. Oh, and this other property changed. The is not busy. And it passes that information around. So there's title, and it does the exact same thing, right? So the two halves of this is a partial class. It doesn't need to specify the scope because that's being handled over here in my human managed version of this. So this is being auto-generated and written to disk, and it will mash up the two together. If I mouse over this, it will show me that here's the name and here's where it's generated. I believe there was a way to open the folder where that lives. Yeah, there it is. So I did an open containing folder, and you can see it's actually an attempt folder out here. And it'll be brought in later when we actually compile. So that's where that lives. That's what this is generating for us. All of that left-right event management code goes away. It makes things a lot easier for us to manage and work with. All right. So we now have a base view model object that we can work with. The folks were asking about repository and services. Let's create a service object that really is implementing a little bit of the repository pattern to return data for us that we'll eventually consume. Now, we're going to be fetching monkey information across the big internet, getting that data and painting it inside of our application. So we're going to create a monkey service inside the services folder, and we're going to create a method to go get all the monkeys that are known about. So I'll open Solution Explorer. Let me collapse up the dependencies and go into services. There's monkey service, and this is a class that we're going to define that does these interactions we need to get data and present it for us. So we'll have a collection that we'll store called monkey list, and we'll use the new syntax here, right? The inferred constructor here to create a new collection of monkeys. And we're going to have a method here that runs asynchronously to get the monkeys. And by default, we'll just return the contents of that collection. So it doesn't do anything interesting yet because the collection's empty. So let's add an HTTP client so that it knows how to go get that collection of monkeys. So let's add an HTTP client, and it will create a new client to go get that information about monkeys that we can use. So we're going to end up registering this service and its dependencies. We'll wire that up in a little bit. So if we do have monkeys in the list, return the monkey list. That makes sense. Don't worry about fetching if we've already got the data. Otherwise, we're going to go get a data file from this very secure data location. You may be getting it from a REST endpoint, from an API that you stood up on Azure in an app service or managed by API management, or maybe it's an Azure function. To make this simple, those implementations are a different topic, but to make this simple, we're just going to go get this JSON file from the web server out there that has information about all the monkeys that we're going to present. Put them in a container or put them in a... I see what you did there, Dragstar Dragon. Yes, put the monkeys in a barrel. So we have an address to go get them from. We'll get some sort of HTTP response, check to make sure that it was successful. And if it was, read that JSON and put it into a list monkey object, and it will replace that collection with what it found. finally it'll return that. So I've got a simple service object now that knows how to get monkey data and store it locally in memory of our application. We actually, Visual Studio generated that using statement for us. So if we don't have access to the internet, there's a file on disk that you can get, load, and punch in here. Since you're watching me on the internet, I'm not going to write this because you have the internet. So now we need to figure out and start putting these pieces together. So we're going to update the view model to call our monkey service, expose the list of monkeys to our user interface. So we're going to use an observable collection of type monkey that'll be cleared and loaded with those monkey objects. So this means we don't have to raise those events when the contents change in the collection. So in the monkeys view model, we're going to add that observable collection. Monkeys view model. There we go. So I will copy those in. All right. So we're defining the title of the page is Monkey Finder. Right? And remember, that title is going to be set. That's in our base view model. That will trigger all of those property notifications that whatever's consuming the view model can consume and respond to appropriately. We'll want to use the new monkey service, so we're going to add a using statement for that. We don't need to do that because I'm going to define it right there. It doesn't know what it is, so I'll do control dot and it'll generate the using statement for me. I try to avoid writing using statements. I can control dot and generate and place them appropriately. We're going to receive that service and wire it up right here. So it's being passed in. It's going to be injected in, and we're going to save that off. Check this out. I can control dot on this and initialize the field all in one step here coming from inside Visual Studio. Danny, that was 3 years ago. I can't answer that, and I don't know if it was during one of my streams. There is an appeal that you can send for unban requests. We can talk about that off. Okay. I see exactly your unban request, and I see your previous messages, and I see why. We'll talk about that offline. So, all right, we're going to create a method to get those monkeys that's going to return a task. So I will add that here. And of course, if it's busy, well, don't do anything. But we're going to mark it as busy, and we're going to put some content in a try-catch block. So if it's currently busy doing something, return. Don't try and do it again, right? This prevents the double clicking of things and it running a whole bunch at the same time. So we're going to start off by saying we're busy. We're going to, if there's an error or anything, we'll handle it. And at the end here, we'll release. And allow other operations to continue. So in the try block, we're just going to go call that service and return the collection of monkeys. So that's easy. There's a repository pattern returning in the view model and stitching together our content. Now, let's finish connecting this content. So if our observable collection, if it has entries in it, clear it. And then we're going to do a for each to go add those monkeys into that observable collection, and it will paint the user interface as those arrive. Guillermo says, thanks for the content. Love the take on Solid. You're very welcome. Please do more design patterns. Okay. We'll take that. That's absolutely something we can go after. So in Get Monkeys Async, we're going to add some catch information. So we will output appropriately. Unable to get monkeys with whatever our exception message is, and we'll display an error message appropriately inside an alert box, right? Oh, error, and here's what it was. So pretty straightforward. All right. We want to make that available as a command that our user interface can bind to. So normally we got to create some sort of a command object, then wire that up. Here's what you're going to call. But here's the community toolkit again. We're going to add a relay command attribute on top of that method. Check out that attribute. So on top of that method that we want to be a command, right? Save that. Save that. Now let's go look at that analyzer. Right, so this is a source generator for relay command. And here's what it's generated. Right, async relay command, get monkeys command. And, right, that's the private field for it. And here is the get monkeys command. If there is a value there, use it. Otherwise, assign a new async relay command. Look at this. And it's a function that's going to return a pointer to my get monkeys async method. So we've wrapped and exposed and set up all of this as a command object with all of this diagnostic information and that standard format using the code generator. I didn't have to think about it. It just wires it up and makes it available. Let me come back to some of that in the chat room in just a second. We need to register the services that we just defined, that monkey service in the view model. So I'm going to go into the MAUI program and wire that up. So we add a singleton for the main page. Remember, we registered and set up the fonts here. So I'm going to add right there. It doesn't know what a monkey service is. Control period, using statement, done. I like that. I like that a lot. Make things easier to manage. And we're going to inject the view model before we get to the next bit. So inside main page, right, in the code behind this, we're going to inject monkeys view model. Give me one of those. And we're going to wire that up to our binding context. It's an object that contains properties that'll be targeted by the bound properties of it. So we'll be able to connect that monkeys collection. We'll be able to connect those observable properties, the notify properties, all through this, and it'll update the screen for us as the content changes. Let me answer some questions there from chat. MS, regarding EF Core and EF6, we can consider them model layer for database. The MVVM, what can offer to EM as ORM? As it any correlations? No. MVVM is it consumes entity framework. It doesn't offer anything back to it. Entity framework as an object relational mapper, ORM, wraps and makes those database interactions available for us. On YouTube, Jan says, I dream of doing this kind of program in the future. Programming is so hard. This is where I think where I think programmers wanting to shortcut and be lazy about some things that are repeated again and again and again make those tedious things go away, and means we can write less code for higher level code that focuses on our business needs, where we are, right? We are the specialists in how our business works. I don't care about managing properties. Let somebody else do that. And that's what's going on here. So, all right. So now let's bind this to the user interface, and it's going to look something like this when we're done. So in main page XAML, we're going to add a view model namespace and a data type at the top of the content page. So we're going to head back over here. Right, this is in main page. I was already in there. And add those two. So we have our view model and we have our data type so that we can interact with those. There we go. Okay. And we're going to create our first binding by adding the title property for the page. So I'll put that right there. So title, and inside the curly braces, it's going to evaluate this. And we're going to do a binding to the title property of our monkey's view model. This is that code behind it that is listening and interacting with and is going to present this content. All right. And we're going to clear out the content that we had in the middle here for that initial definition of showing the monkeys. We're going to swap this out from a collection view to a grid. I'm just going to skip down and pull some of this content right there. So we'll have a grid layout and a collection view inside of that grid that has a binding to our monkeys collection. And when I mouse over that, you see it says it's an observable collection. We can't select any content from it, and there's a 2-wide column that we're going to drop in there. The item template that goes with it is going to just format the monkey information. So for each one of the entries on there, we're going to format like this. A data template, and it's going to receive a monkey object. That's the model that was in that collection, the type that was in that collection. I want to be careful when I use that. And we're going to put a frame inside of another little grid inside, and we're going to bring up the card view of... Go find me that. So there's a series of styles that are defined here for how that's going to appear. We have an image that comes out of the image for the monkey, the name of the monkey, the location of the monkey that will appear just below it. All right. And let's add a button under the collection view that will allow us to get the data from the server. So just underneath that is a button. Now look, command, and it's binding to that get monkeys command that was generated, right? We did the relay command and we said bind that up. Is this going to be enabled? Well, it's only enabled when it is not busy. And we have a style that's defined over here inside of our resources for it's an outline button. Okay. Oh, we need an activity indicator. Yes, let's do that. So way down at the bottom here. So when you click the button, we want some sort of an indicator that says, hey, it's getting data. So when it is busy, we'll show the indicator. It's running when is busy is true. We're going to make it yellow, and it's 2 rows high and 2 columns wide. All right, and let's run the application now. I'll run it from my Windows machine, and I'll answer those couple questions in chat. Just a second. We've got about 13 minutes left. Plenty of time to wire up navigation. That should have worked. Yeah, initialize component should have worked. It's available. Rebuild that. Yeah, we're good. Okay, that went away. Status bar behavior. Where? I'm going to comment that out for right now, just because I want to get past this. I'll figure it out later. There it goes. All right. So it is a very yellow application. And there's my Get Monkeys button. I can click it. I get a spinner. It loads my data, and there's all the monkeys bound to this user interface. That Get Monkeys should have been too wide. Did I miss something there? It should have... column span 2. No. I have to restart it. Okay. Bonk Boy on Twitch asks... There we go. Right, so the little Get Monkeys button down there at the bottom, I click it, spinner, and the data loads. Any opinions on DDD, CQRS, event sourcing, event-driven architecture stack? Those are all, I would call them highly advanced application architecture models, system architecture models in some cases, that you don't know that you need them until you actually need them. I wouldn't consider those for a simple application like this. You're looking at a complex application system before you build those. But I've been a big fan of DDD and CQRS, but event sourcing gets added into the mix. It's a fantastic model that a lot of folks use. However, it is extremely complex for folks to learn and get accustomed to. It is not for beginners. So the ramp up time on that is long. So let me see here. When are we getting UI designer tools in the IDE? There were preview tools in the IDE. They were pulled back. I don't know specific timing on them being reintroduced, but you can always use Blend. Blend is out there. Yeah, I think there's a namespace matching thing going on there. Okay, So we've got an initial application running, and it doesn't go back and fetch the data when I click this, right? So, not bad. Works, interacts, and lets me see that content. In the last 10 minutes here, let's go. Can we use Angular or React with Maui? Asks Amarol on YouTube. No. Not directly here in the XAML, but you can, and our friend Alyssa Nikol has some demos where she takes an Angular application and puts it inside of a web view that's hosted in a Maui hybrid application. So instead of it using Blazor, just loads up the Angular content. Okay, the second half of this that I want to get into is yes, we built the user interface. We want to do the routing for navigation. So we want to be able to have a details page out there for a monkey. So when you choose one, show me more information about it. And the navigation around is very much inspired from web routing technologies. We can say, go to some location and pass in an argument. Hey, here's the thing that we want to load about. And we can specify, well, here's the property I want to load with what came in on that query string. After the question mark, go find this value. It has this, right? There's the name of the value that we're capturing. Pass it into this property right here and set that. So let's do that. And we're going to create a details page that's going to receive that information. So let's add a go to details method into our view model that'll allow us to navigate to the details of a monkey. So I'll just jump right down here. That's inside relay command. So here. There we go. So once again, relay command, we're going to expose this method as a command object. Go to details, and it's going to receive a monkey parameter. Take the current shell and navigate to the details page. And true is we're going to use animation to do that. And we're going to pass in a dictionary, a collection of parameters, and inside that parameter, we're passing a monkey object and the actual a monkey object with name, capital M monkey. All right. Cool. So I have that. We need to add a tap gesture recognizer so that it knows, hey, you clicked on this, you tapped on this, go do a thing. So inside the frame, we're going to add a gesture recognizer. Here. There's the frame. There it is. So we're going to call this command, go find inside the monkey's view model, the go to details command. And the parameter we're going to pass in is the current object, the current monkey inside this template. All right. Makes sense. We need a details view model. Monkey details view model. It's already available out there. Actually, I think there it is. So a constructor with an observable property for here's the monkey that we've received. I need to add a query property so we can receive that input information, right? When we navigate here, we're going to pass a monkey with that dictionary object for that property we want to load. And now we need to register it so that you can actually navigate to it, right? We have a details page. we need to tell the app that, hey, you can navigate to this thing. So inside app shell XAML, we need to register this route. So app shell XAML CS. So our shell object that manages the navigation and other application resources, we're going to notify it that this is something you can navigate to. And in MAUI program, we need to add information about our monkey details view model. Where'd it go? MAUI program. And the details page. So it knows they're out there, it can load them and allow it to interact. And we need to set up that injection in our details page. So I will go to details page, XAML CS, and I'll update that constructor so that it knows how to receive a monkey details view model, right? This is the MVVM architecture, injecting it, and we're going to assign it to that binding context. So it now knows how to work with that view model. And we want to make it look like this. Nice little back button so you can return. We'll add mapping capabilities later and some details at the bottom. So let's go into the details page. All right, so there's our content page with information about the view model and the data type for the view model. The title is binding to the name of the monkey inside the view model that we've selected. We'll add a scroll grid inside the content. All right. And I'm just going to finish this out because we are right up against time. Copy in that content for the user interface, and you can take a look at how that's laid out and how that's presented. Order, label, yeah, I got all of it. And we want to add just under the label details, location, population. And we should now, with that additional UI entry, be able to load and present and navigate to a specific monkey in our user interface. So I will get the monkeys. It's going to load. There they are. And if I choose one, it opens. It's got a nice format here, some description, and initial information. And I can click a back button and it goes back. I get the same interaction whether I'm on Windows, Mac, iOS, or Android. I get a nice little back and forth navigation to my detail information from the parent search list. Very cool stuff. Let me head over, wrap this up. There we go. All right. Really appreciate everybody tuning in. That's all the time that I have for today. We are right up against. I see somebody. I'm sorry, I can't read the Cyrillic. Complaining that Blazor is a very bad framework because it doesn't work on your computer. It works on every computer that I've touched. I'm afraid the problem is you, my friend. I'd love to see more about what you're doing because quite frankly, I don't have that problem. I had a classroom of students at university on Friday who went through and they were all able to create applications. So I don't know what to tell you without having more context other than dropping into a stream and saying, I don't like this because I can't get it to work. Let's try and get you some help. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is the end of our time together today. And I need to get you set up with another stream. If you're over on Twitch, those of you that are on YouTube, we have lots of great content here for you. Check out the playlist of content right over there. There might even be some links just below me. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're on Twitch, if you're on the big Twitch TV network, let me see who else is streaming out there. I can get you set up for a raid. Get you connected I'm going to send you over to... hey, that's me. I can't send you into the Visual Studio channel because I'm the Visual Studio channel. Let me get you connected with our friend Tim Bodette, who is doing 12 hours of indie game development. Oh, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow over on my channel, CSharpFritz, on Twitch, where we'll be talking about search capabilities, Azure Functions, and Blazor. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you then. Have a great time with Tim if you're on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, have a fantastic rest of your day. There's more great content coming on the .NET and Visual Studio channels in the next few hours. Stay tuned. Take care.